Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Kaite Bhagavad Rupam Vishvam Sarasaratmakam Atman Vyaktirikena Pashanto Vyacharan Mahim. Synonyms. Te, these, the nine Yugendras. Bhagavat, of the Supreme Lord. Rupam, a form. Vishvam, the entire universe. Sat Asat Atmakam, consisting of both gross and subtle objects. Atmanaha, from the self. Avyaktere Kena, as non-different. Pashyantaha, seeing. Vyacharan, they wandered. Mahim, the earth. Translation by the disciples of His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. These sages wandered the earth, seeing the entire universe with all its gross and subtle objects as a manifestation of the Supreme Lord and as non-different from the self. These sages wandered the earth, seeing the entire universe with all its gross and subtle objects as a manifestation of the Supreme Lord and is non-different from the self. All right. So I'm going to hold this for a second. Yeah. So previously on Maharaj Nimi Meets the Nine Yugendras, Srila Narada Muni is talking to Krishna's father, Vasudeva. Verse 14 tells us where we're at right now, basically. It says, to explain the devotional service of the Lord, sages have related the ancient history of the conversation between the great soul King Videha, that's King Nimi, and the sons of Rishabha, that's the nine Yugendras. He does that by explaining the lineage that led up to the birth of the nine Yugendras. Rishabhadev had 100 sons. One was Bharat. 81 became Brahmanas. 9 were Kshatriyas that ruled the earth. And the final 9 were the ones that were wandering the earth in this verse. And everything so far has been leading up to that meeting. You'll get to that meeting after which this chapter is named next week, I'm sure. So, Om Jnanatirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Vicharni Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschat Chadesha Tarani Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, I do seek the blessings of the assembled devotees, that I may say something that won't embarrass my spiritual master. Also, I'd like to take permission from Adi Purusha Prabhu and Arjuna Prabhu, if he's also there, to continue. Whoops. I will share this again. Yeah. In the spirit of saving some time, I'm going to read the purport from the Veda base, because in the book, the physical book, the purport is like 5 pages. But in the Veda base, check it out. It's all on one page. Isn't that handy? So here we go. Let's see how far we get. According to Srila Sridhar Swami, it is clearly demonstrated in this. You know what? I'm sorry. I'm just going to read the translation again, so it's more immediate. Our recollection. These sages wandered the earth, seeing the entire universe with all its gross and subtle objects as a manifestation of the Supreme Lord and is non-different from the self. Okay, report by Prabhupada's disciples. According to Srila Sridhar Swami, it is clearly demonstrated in this and the following verse that the 9 saintly sons of Rishabhadev, known as the Navayogendras, were situated in the highest stage of spiritual perfection called Paramahamsya Charitam, or having fully developed the character of Paramahamsas. In other words, they were pure devotees of the Lord. According to Sridhar Swami and Jiva Goswami, the words Atmano Vyaktire Kena indicate that the 9 sages saw the universe as being non-different from themselves, as well as non-different from the Supreme Soul, Lord Krishna. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has additionally commented, Atmanaha Paramatmanaha Sakshad Avyaktir Ekina Vishvaisya Tat Shakti Mayatvad Iti Bhavaha. Atmanaha indicates the super soul. This universe is not different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Paramatma, since the entire universe is composed of his energy. Let's stop there for a moment. So yeah, it's like some of you may remember that song by Moby, right? We are all made of stars. It's all Krishna's energy. Krishna is the totality of existence. In the Nectar of Devotion, Prabhupada says, our vision is that Krishna is everything. We see Krishna everywhere. So if Krishna is the totality of existence, and we've read, he's in every atom and in between every atom. There's nothing that's not Krishna. It's the differentiation between Krishna's energy and Krishna the person. So that's like sometimes there are verses that can be confusing, like in the Gita where Krishna says something like, I am in everything, but I am also separate, right? Krishna, the person, is separate, but his energy is everywhere. You can't have anything either inert or animate that is not Krishna. In the story of Nrsingadev, Hiranyakashipu says to his son Prahlad, so where is this Vishnu of yours? And Prahlad says, he's everywhere. There's no place that he's not. And Hiranyakashipu says, oh, really? Is he in this pillar? And yes, of course he's in this pillar. And Hiranyakashipu found out the hard way that Krishna is indeed in the pillar. There's no place that Krishna is not. There's a story from back in the 60s. I forget what was going on exactly, but apparently, I don't know, Hayagriva was there and Prabhupada was there, and Hayagriva was moving something out of the way. He pushed something out of the way with his foot. And Prabhupada corrected him. He said, pick that up and move it over. Don't push it with your foot. And he said, why can't I push this with my foot? And Prabhupada explained that everything is Krishna's energy. And Hayagriva said, so I don't know, I don't remember what it was. Let's say it's a box. Hayagriva said, so this box is more sacred than my foot? Prabhupada said, yes. Yeah. So everything is Krishna, and Krishna is everywhere. And of course, in the Bhagavad Gita, right, in chapter 7, verses 8 through 11, Krishna tells Arjuna, I am the taste of water, the light of the sun and the moon, the syllable Om in the Vedic mantras. I am the sound in ether and ability in man. I am the original fragrance of the earth. I am the heat in fire. I am the life of all that lives, and I am the penances of all ascetics. Know that I am the original seed of all existences, the intelligence of the intelligent, and the prowess of all powerful people. I am the strength of the strong, devoid of passion and desire. I am sex life, which is not contrary to religious principles. Right? And then Krishna goes on to say in the 12th verse, know that all states of being, be they of goodness, passion, or ignorance, are manifested by my energy. I am, in one sense, everything. But I am independent. I am not under the modes of material nature, for they, on the contrary, are within me. So then he explains that, and then he goes on in the 10th chapter to talk about different things of purifiers. I am the wind of immovable things. I am the Himalayas of lights. I am the sun, etc., like that. So it's clear that Krishna is everywhere, and the vision of the pure devotees can see that. Prabhupada was seeing that. Our vision is that Krishna is everything. The 9 Yugendras were seeing that. They were looking at the world. They were marveling at the world. For us, it's very easy to get down on the material nature. It actually helps us. It helps us to progress spiritually. It helps us to detach from this notion that there's any real lasting, ultimately satisfying happiness in the material world. So sometimes we overcompensate and talk about how bad the material world is. And, the material world is suffering. It is. But when we can see, it's like going to Vrindavan in India. It's very easy to see, the pollution, the garbage, the dirt, and all this kind of stuff. But one with transcendental vision sees Vrindavan for what it is. It's the spiritual world in the material realm. So we can also, like the 9 Yugendras, are walking around the world, seeing Krishna everywhere, and we can do that. And we can see the suffering, and we can have compassion for the suffering, whether it's our own or the suffering of others, and understand exactly what it is, where it's coming from, why it's there, and what the solution is to leave it behind us forever. And we can see the utter beauty that is Krishna's manifestation in this universe. So let us continue. Although it is stated here that the cosmic manifestation is non-different from both the living entity and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one should not think that either the living entity or the Supreme Lord is material. A Vedic aphorism states, Asango hyayam aparushaha. The living entity and the Supreme Personality of Godhead have nothing to do with the material world. Right? And in one sense, like Krishna says, I am everything. In one sense, he has nothing to do with the material world. Furthermore, Bhagavad Gita says that the entire universe, consisting of 8 gross and subtle elements, constitutes the Bina Prakriti, or Apara Prakriti, the separated inferior energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Krishna clearly states in Bhagavad Gita that he has eternally established his own abode in the kingdom of God, where life is eternal, full of bliss and knowledge, and that the living entity, being part and parcel of God, is also eternal. Furthermore, once having gone to that eternal abode of the Lord, the living entity never returns to this temporary manifestation. One may therefore ask why the living entity and the Supreme Lord are stated to be non-different from the material universe. The question is very nicely answered by Srila Narada Muni in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 1.5.20. Idam hi vishvam bhagavan ivitaro yato jagat stana niroda sambhava. The Supreme Lord, Personality of Godhead, is himself this cosmos, and still he is aloof from it. There it is again. From him only has this cosmic manifestation emanated. In him it rests, and unto him it enters after annihilation. Commenting on Narada's statement, Srila Prabhupada has very nicely explained this delicate philosophical point. For a pure devotee, the conception of Mukunda, Lord Krishna, is both personal and impersonal. The impersonal cosmic situation is also Mukunda because it is the emanation of the energy of Mukunda. For example, a tree is a complete unit, whereas the leaves and branches of a tree are emanated parts and parcels of the tree. The leaves and branches of the tree are also the tree, but the tree itself is neither the leaves nor the branches. It's inconceivable unless we can have exact, direct perception of this, which we all do. The Vedic version that the whole cosmic creation is nothing but Brahman means that since everything is emanating from the Supreme Brahman, nothing is apart from him. Similarly, the part and parcel hands and legs are called the body. But the body as the whole unit is neither the hands nor the legs. The Lord is the transcendental form of eternity, cognition, and beauty. And thus, the creation of the energy of the Lord appears to be partially eternal, full of knowledge, and beautiful also. Prabhupada continues, according to the Vedic version, the Lord is naturally fully powerful, and thus his supreme energies are always perfect and identical with him. Both the spiritual and material skies and their paraphernalia are emanations of the internal and external energies of the Lord. External energy is comparatively inferior, whereas the internal potency is superior. The superior energy is living force, and therefore she is completely identical with the Lord. But the external energy, being inert, is partially identical. But both energies are neither equal to nor greater than the Lord, who is the generator of all energies. Such energies are always under his control, exactly as electrical energy, however powerful it may be, is always under control of the engineer. The human being and all other living beings are products of his internal energies. Thus, the living being is also identical with the Lord, but he is never equal or superior to the personality of Godhead. Okay, right, I'm just gonna hold that, come back up here. Let's not forget what the verse is here. These sages wander the earth, seeing the entire universe with all its gross and subtle objects as manifestations of the Supreme Lord and as non-different from the self. So this can be a little curious, right? This speaks to Mayavad philosophy, right? This oneness, we're all one, but no, there's a superior energy and there's an inferior energy, and this is an extremely important differentiation. I am not Krishna. I am not God. I am part of God. We are all made of stars. The prophet Moby says, I am made of the stuff that God is made of, but how can I call myself the complete whole when I'm less than I can show you right now? And God is everything. Krishna is everything. Prabhupada has clearly explained here that both the cosmic manifestation and the living entities are emanations from the Supreme Lord, as confirmed both in Vedanta Sutra and in the opening statement of Srimad Bhagavatam, Janmadi Asya Yataha. The absolute truth is that from which everything emanates. Similarly, the Ishopanishad states, and we all know it, there it is. Om Purnam Ada Purnam Idam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Vashis Yate. I got it out. Let's hear it for me. Okay, that's enough. So yeah, when I first started making, let me just read this here, this part. The Supreme Lord, the absolute truth, is Purna, or complete in himself. And since this cosmic world is a manifestation of his potency, it also appears to be Purna. In other words, because this material world is an emanation from the Supreme Lord, it is non-different from him, exactly as the sun's rays are non-different from the sun globe, which is the source of their emanation. Similarly, the living entities, the living beings who are expansions of the superior or conscious energy of the Supreme Lord are also non-different from Krishna. Although this non-difference is qualitative and not quantitative, very important. The gold found in golden ornaments, such as rings and bracelets, is qualitatively identical with the gold in a mine. But the gold in the mine is quantitatively far superior to the tiny quantity of gold in a bracelet or ring. Similarly, although we are qualitatively one with God, being spiritual emanations of his ultimate, unlimited potency, we are quantitatively infinitesimal and eternally subordinate to his supreme power. You bummed out by this? Anybody bummed out? Who's bummed out? You don't have to say, right? I don't want to be subordinate to anyone. Well, that's why we're here. So hope you're having a good time, right? So along with that, that illusory feeling of not being subordinate to anyone comes a lot of suffering, unfortunately. Where am I? Okay. Therefore, the Lord is called Vibhu, or infinitely potent, and we are Anu, or infinitesimal and dependent. This is further confirmed in the Vedic literature by the statement, Nityo Nityanam Chaitana Shaitanam, Eko Bahunam Yo Vidaditi Kaman, from the Katha Upanishad. There are innumerable eternal living entities who are eternally and totally dependent upon the supreme singular living entity, the Supreme Lord. Dependent upon the supreme singular living entity, of which we are parts, and we have individuality and we have individuality, but he is he's eternally superior, and we are eternally inferior. Which he says in the next sentence there, supreme singular living entity, the Supreme Lord. That dependence is not an illusion created by material existence, as stated by the impersonalist philosophers, but it is an eternal relationship in which the Lord is eternally superior and we are eternally inferior. The Lord is eternally independent and we are eternally dependent. Bummer out number 2. The Lord is eternally absolute in himself and we are eternally relative to his supreme personality. Yeah. I was about to say before that, as I was making notes about what to speak on in the class, just from when I read the verse, then I read I had all these things down, and I read the purport. I said, well, everything is here. Everything I wanted to say in the class was already in the purport. So I figured, let me just read through the purport. And I keep making this joke saying who's bummed out about being eternally dependent and subordinate to the Supreme Lord. It's our knee-jerk reaction is that it's a bummer, but it's really not a bummer. When we acknowledge and accept that becomes the joy of our life. There's such freedom in letting go of this burden, like Atlas, carrying the world on his shoulders. Letting that go and just I am just a part and parcel, insignificant speck of dirt that Krishna finds value in, and Krishna finds significant. But I can just let go because Krishna is in control and Krishna is taking care of everything. And to the extent that I trust that, to that extent, I will feel free. I will feel love, and I will feel loved, and I will feel completely fulfilled and satisfied and joyful, because there's joy that comes with that realization. Although the Lord is infinitely greater than any other living being, or than all of them combined, every living being is qualitatively non-different from the Lord, because all living beings are parts and parcels emanating from him. Therefore, in one sense, the living entity is also not different from the material cosmic manifestation, getting back to the verse here, which is an inferior sister energy of the Lord. Both the living entity and the material nature are prakriti, or feminine, dependent expansions of the supreme Purusha. The difference is that the living entity is the superior energy of the Lord, because the living entity is conscious and eternal, like the Lord, whereas material energy is the inferior energy of the Lord, lacking consciousness and eternal form. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has emphasized in this regard that the absolute substance is one, and it's called Paramatma, or the Supersoul. When one has achieved but a partial vision of the Paramatma, one's understanding of life is called Atmadarshana, or self-realization. And when even this partial understanding is lacking, one's existential condition is called Anatma Darshana, or ignorance of the self. In the state of partial realization of the Supersoul without recognition of the Paramatma's distinction from the individual soul, the living entity tends to become puffed up by his spiritual achievement, be carried away by mental concoction, and consider himself equal in all respects with God. We can relate to that now, can't we? We make a little bit of spiritual advancements. Hey, I'm doing good. And then before you know it, I'm I'm all puffed up by my little spiritual advancement. And in the history of ISKCON, we've had, many Prabhupada's disciples who we looked upon as being the advanced ones, the senior ones. And they were, in a sense, but the unfortunate thing is they were all in their late 20s, so there were a lot of fall downs. But who are we to blame them? They were the recipients of heaps and heaps of praise and worship, and they were advanced, but perhaps not advanced enough to be able to deal with that in a mature way, the way that many of them are now. So I offer my obeisances to all of those devotees from that time, including the ones who have fallen, because they took on this responsibility to execute Prabhupada's mission. And there was no choice. Prabhupada had no choice. He thought he would be preaching to the older, more mature people, educated. He preached to a lot of educated people, but a lot of them were very young. And the hippies were mostly drawn, right? The hippies. And he turned them into happies, but it took a while for mature happiness to settle in. Okay. Maybe that's enough on that. On the other hand, the living entity situated in anatma darshana, or material ignorance, feels that he is completely different from the Supreme Lord. And since everyone in this material world is interested in himself, the living entity forgets about God. There it is. Thinking that God is completely different from him and that there is therefore no substantial relationship between him and God. In this way, the impersonal transcendentalists emphasize only the oneness between God and the living entity, whereas the ordinary materialists overemphasize the difference between God and the living entity. But we are Gaudiya Vaishnavas. That means Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has clearly revealed that the ultimate truth is simultaneous oneness and difference, achintya veda veda tattva. Actually, we are eternally different from God because the living entity and God are eternally separate individual entities. There exists the possibility of an eternal relationship. And because every living entity is qualitatively one with the Supreme Lord, that relationship constitutes the essence of the ultimate reality for every living being. As stated in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Jivera Swarupa Haya Krishnera Nityadas. The ultimate essential identity of every living entity is his relationship with the Supreme Lord as a servitor of the Lord. Most important difference. Without which we end up here in the material world, eternally, in a sense, repeating the same thing, birth after birth after birth, suffering, suffering. Good times, suffering, suffering, suffering. A few laughs, suffering, suffering, suffering. If one can understand that he is an eternal servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can correctly understand that both the living entity and the material universe are identical with Krishna, being emanations from him, and that they are therefore non-different from each other. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati has stated, the material world is a manifestation of simultaneous difference and non-difference, and it is a form of the Supreme Lord. Thus, the temporary, perishable, and ever-changing material world is different from Vaikuntha, the eternal world. It should be noted, in this verse, the word sad asad atmarkam, or made up of gross and subtle objects, does not refer to material and spiritual objects. This universe is stated to be composed of sat and asat, gross and subtle material objects. According to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, the very subtle state within the manifest world is known as the unmanifest, and the realm beyond the manifest world is called transcendental. Within the covering surrounding the manifest, in the region of the time factor, is the phase of material existence experienced by the controlling deities. In this phase exist the two functions, cause, asat, and effect, sat. In the universe, which is a third tattva, or reality, apart from and containing both sat and asat, and which is a form of the Supreme Lord, it is impossible to produce any contradiction to the non-dual absolute truth. Don't you love how Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati writes? Right. In other words, for us lay people, although ignorant materialistic scientists, God bless them, may zealously carry out research to find a material principle that can negate or render unnecessary the existence of God, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati clearly states that since the universe is an emanation from the Lord and therefore spiritually identical with him, there cannot possibly exist anywhere within the universe a material law, principle, or phenomenon that in any way contradicts the supremacy of the personality of Godhead. In fact, the entire universe, along with the spiritual sky, exists as eternal testimony to the unlimited glory of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. With this understanding, the 9 Yogendras were traveling about the earth in transcendental bliss. In transcendental bliss. Why transcendental bliss? Because these sages wandered the earth, seeing the entire universe with all its gross and subtle objects as a manifestation of the Supreme Lord and is non-different from the self. So that bliss comes when we have such transcendental vision, when we see Krishna everywhere, when we know that Krishna's energy is all that exists, and I am but a speck, a little part of it. And knowing that insignificance, again, is satisfying. It's not a promotion of low self-esteem because, again, Krishna finds us significant. And in order to have that real relationship with Krishna, in order to reach that proximity to Krishna, we have to understand our position and recognize that there's nothing without Sri Krishna. Jai Sri Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Muralidhar, Gaurachandra Bhagavan ki Jai. We got through the purport, guys. Haribol. Are there any reflections, realizations, discoveries, questions, comments, corrections, chastisements?
Hare Krishna. Can you hear us?
I can hear you all.
Yes?
Yes.
Wonderful to see you. Thank you so much. Wonderful class. You
Thank
said
you.
you explained it like 16 times, and like you said also, it's in the purport. There's practically nothing to explain. Damodar Maharaj was telling us he was hadn't been in New York for a while, and he drove his car, and he was coming through the toll, and he said to the toll keeper, I think I'm lost. And in typical New York fashion, he said, the toll keeper said, listen, either you're lost or you're not lost.
Right.
Either you're lost or you're not lost. So the point is that sometimes we see things, Prabhupada said, foolish consistency is the hobgoblin of small minds. Foolish consistency is the hobgoblin of small minds. If we're actually broad-minded, we can understand that sometimes the answer is yes and no. Not just yes or no. Sometimes the answer is yes and no, right? So Achintya inconceivable. It's beyond our logic that he's simultaneously one with us and not. For the sake of loving exchanges, Krishna has us as separate, and we're satisfied in that. And one time I was coming out of the Boston Temple in the morning, during the morning prayer, I went out to the vehicle to get my job beads, and there was a homeless man on the sidewalk, and there was a discarded washing machine there, laying on the sidewalk. And he said to me, he looked at me in my dhoti and everything, and he said, bow down, this is God. And he pointed to the washing machine. It's like, well, you're more advanced than I am. Yes and no. Yeah, fortunately, Krishna gave me the intelligence to say yes and no. So, and one beautiful thing Prabhupada said, I don't want to talk too long. He said, like the Yogendras, if we see Krishna everywhere, then we'll see beauty everywhere, because Krishna is the reservoir of all beauty. If we see Krishna everywhere, we'll see beauty everywhere. So, thank God. Sorry to talk too long. Oh, glory to Srila Prabhupada, Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you very much. Not too long at all. I don't know if I've ever shared on this forum before this old Sufi saying, like yes and no, right? This old Sufi story, actually, the two people having a disagreement, so they took it to court, like Adi Purusha did, but it wasn't Judge Judy, some court, and the first person, so the judge said, okay, state your case, and what first person explained his case in detail, very thoroughly, this, and this, and this, and then he was done, and the judge said, I see your point, you're right. And the other person said, well, Judge, wait a minute, you haven't even heard my part. So the judge said, okay, what's your part? And he explained it very thoroughly with details and this, and then this, and then this. And then he completed it. And then the judge said, oh, I see your point. You're right. And then the bailiff said, excuse me, Judge, but they can't both be right. And the judge looked at the bailiff and said, you're right. So there's often more than one right answer, you know? And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has explained to us how we can make sense of all these seeming contradictions very simply in one line, Achinta Bheda Bheda Tattva, simultaneous oneness and difference. Jamuna Jaya.
Haribo.
Krishna.
Krishna, thanks for class. That purport kind of sums up everything, I kind of think. But I wanted to comment on, there's something that Maharaj put so succinctly in that way he does, says about eagles. We have to learn how to be happy small, with that insignificant, happy small. And I find great joy in that. You know, it's like I'm not, I am not the supreme. I am just one small cog, and to find that happiness in being part of the whole. And that, I think it was fine when we served together on these things. You're one small cog of the thing. So I really love that point a lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for contributing that. It's so well put. Right? How did Rupa Goswami define eloquence? Truth spoken concisely. How about two words? Happy small. Yeah. There's this idea. I think I don't know. It's at least it's in the American culture. I know. You know, with American culture, everything is big, more, bigger, better. You know, there's but adults have go through much more mental anguish than children. Generally speaking, of course there are circumstances. Children are carefree. Why? Because they're small. And because they're small, they're being taken care of. And like I said earlier, there's just such a freedom and just like letting go and being taken care of by Krishna. And it doesn't mean we let go of everything, all our responsibilities while we're in this limited material sphere. We have to go about our business. But in the ultimate issue, we make no claims to proprietorship of anything that we are given on this temporary basis. And we're given this family, these families, but only on a temporary basis. Maybe we're given a great job, but only on a temporary basis. Maybe we're given a lot of wealth, but only on a temporary basis. Maybe we're given real good looks, only on a temporary basis, though. All this stuff. So why get really attached to, and why to start really identifying with all this stuff when we know it's fleeting? It just doesn't seem fleeting sometimes. Sometimes it seems like we know it's not permanent, but there's a sense of permanence about it that convinces us. That's why we're Tatashta Shakti, and we're marginal, and we're susceptible to this illusion, this illusory idea. But we're all here, so that means we're all trying to combat that as best we can. We're trying to train ourselves to understand that, and to not only understand it, but actually live it, take it out of our heads and put it into our complete awareness, into our bodies and into the way we interact with the world. So as long as we're on that path, on this path, eventually we'll get there. And my eventually is going to be different than your eventually, each of your eventuallys. But eventually we're all going to get there. We just have to stick to it. Thank you, Devaki. Nice to see you on these calls when I'm fortunate enough to join. Also, since we have a minute before Darshan, I would like to extend a great congratulations to Min and Jack, two great people. And I knew they were headed toward marriage, but I didn't know they had gotten married. So very happy to hear that.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we really appreciate our connection to you in our lives. And yeah, very grateful. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
We just want to mention the Chuta Gopi's father. Now he's seeing all the incredible deposits she put in his spiritual bank account by all her devotional service. You know, we want to tell our relatives that we love them, and sometimes he's a devotee, so he understands, but some people don't understand, some parents don't. But when they leave this world, they say, oh my goodness, look what my son did, look what my daughter did, and Krishna and Yamaraj will say, yeah, they saved you. So when we do something in devotional service, it benefits everyone in our sampradaya. Here we go with the conch shell.
Thanks, Adi Purusha. Thank you all. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Yadunath Prabhu.
Thank you, Ananda. Appreciate you.
Anybody here with temple equipment? No?
Yadunath Prabhu is standing up for darshan, dear devotees. Please let's follow, if possible. Susan is in Dandavat. No need to stand up.
Wrote the same thoughts, and every day it sounds different.
Oh, mine's in non-existent. Yes. Ciao. Hare Krishna. Oh, Kripamunia, Vishesha Swabha, Govinda, Adipurisa, Samaha, Govinda, Sorry, my camera, it's not it's on Zoom.
Thank you, Amrita Kishori, David Dasa. Welcome to the Afterglow. Would anyone like to share a reflection? My reflection is that we should be happy small. I like it. I shared with some devotees the other day that I was having this realization that by the time I have all my problems sorted out, I'll be probably 140 or 150 years old. So let's just be happy today with what we have and appreciate Krishna for putting us in this situation. Krishna Kumari?
Krishna's really amazing. So yesterday we were, at our tailgate and before my son's football game. And we got situated with our tent. We bring prasadam, we bring these blondies that are chickpea vegan blondies. We don't tell people they're made of chickpeas. Anyway, so we're situated next to my son's roommate's father. And, a couple of weeks ago, he said, "Oh, I'm reading this book by Sai Baba." I was like, "Oh, that's cool." And today he's trying to pronounce it. He says, "I just started reading the Srimad Bhagavatam." So amazing. So yeah, I have a set of Bhagavatams from Mother Rupa. She's a Prabhupada disciple who passed away 2 years ago. I loved her so much. She helped build the Palace of Gold. She was one of the devotees that made the plaster bricks, and she didn't get much glorification. She broke her back, and anyway, so I have her Bhagavatams. So I asked him if he wanted them last night. They won the championship, his team, for their thing. So then we're at this crazy bar last night with like the coach buying kids drinks. So I say to this gentleman, "Oh, do you want a full set? They're 18 bucks." He's like, "Yeah, I do." He has a small condensed version. And he said, "Yeah." He says, "Oh, it's a part of ISKCON." So he's done his research. Just amazing that Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavatam is desired without even trying to distribute it. Like it's just, Krishna is so wonderful. Jai Prabhupada.
Thank you, Krishna Kumari. Yeah, one chickpea is offered to Krishna with love and devotion goes a long way. Yeah, Krishna Kumari is distributing Bhagavatam in the bar, distributing books in the tattoo salon. Yeah, there's no limitation. The limitation is all here. Starts here and ends here. That's all the problems start here and here. Limitations, problems, all those things. Just mental concoction. So let's just push on Lord Chaitanya's movement. There's no impediment.
I also invited him to this class, so let's see if he listens to the videos or comes. But And yeah, he says, yeah, I'm not ready to be converted. But, really, Prabhupada didn't want to convert anyone. He just wanted to make everyone a better Christian, better Muslim, a better Jew. Just get to know Krishna, know yourself, and have love, have devotion in our lives. So we're so fortunate to be small.
Yeah.
Krishna.
I'm looking at Adi Purusha Prabhu. He's a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. And look, he's a good Christian. He knows all the stories, all the characters. He quotes Bible all the time. So we're not converting anybody here. Thank you, Krishna Kumari. You can send your. This is a safe space for your friend. No conversion, only encouragement. And Narottam Nitai Prabhu is raising his hand.
Dandavats, I wanted to say, I remember Srila Prabhupada speaking about like that which is good and wholesome sometimes takes a little bit of time and effort to manifest. And keeping that in mind, how the Krishna Prem, Krishna Bhakti is like so like, to know that principle that, to keep, our sadhana bhakti intact every day, because there's no loss or diminution in the progress of Krishna consciousness. We're always, every single mantra we chant, it increases our Krishna consciousness more and more. And yeah, definitely. I remember reading in just yesterday. I was reading Mukunda Goswami's book of the Hare Krishnas in on Second Avenue, Miracle on Second Avenue, and how he was the author was saying how the more we give Krishna to others via Harinam or book distribution or other methods, the more Krishna conscious we actually become faster. It's so potent. So I just wanted to mention those things because it's so important, especially now. I think not to speak too much, but like I think the country itself is coming closer to a difficult time. So the more Krishna consciousness we give, the better off we'll be.
Thank you, Narottam Nitai Prabhu. And are you requesting prayers? Did I read that right?
I was just putting that in the chat. My uncle recently left his body, so I'll be going to the temple later today to perform kirtan. But if anybody wants to say a prayer.
Thank you, Narottam Nitai Prabhu. We definitely will chant. Min has her hand up.
Yeah, just wanted to share something that we heard from the class this morning that really touched me was he spoke about how, well, Krishna says that we don't have to carry the weight, the burden of our life and ourselves. And I remember reading that first time when I first read the Bhagavad Gita, and that's when I just felt it was so amazing because I thought, I don't have to do it. I don't have to carry the weight of this burden of my life because it's just been it was so heavy. And to be reminded of that this morning was just really apt, and realizing that I forget that Krishna tells us that he'll do everything, that he'll carry us. Yeah, that was very nice.
Thank you, Min. One time, there was a little buggy in Srila Prabhupada's room, and he picked him up and opened the window and set him free, and saying, "I'm giving you the whole world." So that's us, those little buggies. Srila Prabhupada has given us the whole world. We're free to serve. Thank you. I have another quote about this, but it's a little heavy. So I'll say it next time. I'll tell it to Bhima separately. I save all the heavy quotes for Bhima. He can handle them. Bhima's been silent for the past few days. I don't know what's going on. Bhima Prabhu? What's that vow of silence? Mona Baba? Moa? What's that called? Nitai Chand, what's that called? What's that vow called when you don't?
Mona Vrata.
What?
Mona Vrata.
Mona, yeah, Mona Vrata.
Mona Vrata.
My ologist told me to say something profound. Here it is. I don't have anything to say. Isn't that profound? Isn't that unbelievable? I don't have anything to say.
You were speechless at how wonderful is Krishna, right?
Yeah. What do I have to say? That's the silence. That silence speaks volumes. Time to shut up and listen.
Thank you, Bhima Kaviraj. Thank you very much.
On that note of interfaith that Mataji was talking about, Rabbi Gelberman used to give, he had a seminary, interfaith ministers that he would initiate. Because, like, if a Catholic boy wants to marry a Jewish girl, they won't let them perform the wedding in the church. So he had these interfaith ministers, and they would get a license to do weddings and funerals and baptisms and things. And he's like a stand-up comedian, Rabbi Gelman. I don't remember him. He's a really funny guy. And one time he said, there was this old rabbi, and he left this world, and he went to the kingdom of God. You know the story, right? And the Lord greeted him at the pearly gates and said, Rabbi, you made it. This is wonderful. Your life is perfect. Rabbi, you don't look happy. What's the matter? The rabbi said, I'm happy. I'm happy. But yeah, actually, there is one problem. So the Lord said to Rabbi, well, what's the problem? He said, all my life, I raised my son to be a good Jew. And right before I died, my son became a Christian. And the Lord said, Rabbi, I had a son who did the same thing. It's no big deal. So, like, Rabbi Gilman used to preach like that with comedy. I had a son who, Lord Krishna, Jesus is the Son of God. I had a son who did the same thing. He became a Christian. It's no big deal. Anyway, we love Krishna.
Thank you very much. Madhipusha Prabhu. Okay, we need a reciter. Okay, let's see. We need an introverted reciter. Let's see. I have Domi here. Domi, please recite the Maha Mantra to complete the prayer.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Sweet. Thank you very much. Now the collective offering is complete. Happy Sunday, dear devotees. Thank you for your association. You are our lifeline, inspiration, and joy. Thank you so much. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
May Domi
Go ahead.
May Domi reappear, make her appearance again in America.
Krishna will manifest.
This is a prayer.
Oh, thank you. I feel very fortunate. I do want to share something. Adi Prabhu always encourage me to share, even though I'm very shy. But I do want to share something. Being in China, I know a few days ago there was a very, very relevant and important question asked by Min Devi, about how Srimad Bhagavatam talks about we can find answers to all questions in our lives, including political questions. I was thinking out loud in my mind, but I was too shy to share. But today, since you called on me, I thought maybe Krishna wants me to share this. I feel being in China, I didn't meet the devotees in China, but I met them in America. So it's been 6 years, and I always afraid to come back to China because I was like, oh no, there's no devotees in China, and there's no open Harinam or Sankirtan in China because of the political situation in China. It's not allowed. But to be honest, this time Krishna magically arranged me to meet devotees in China. There's about 3,000 devotees total in the whole China. There's about 1.4 billion population in China, but so it's very precious. And
Krishna humbled me. And the devotees in my hometown, some of them don't even understand, like even me, I don't understand Bhagavad Gita because they read Chinese version of the Bhagavad Gita. And there's always already some, because Prabhupada's language is so profound and sophisticated. So for us who read reads Gita and Bhagavatam in English, we still need, devotees, advanced devotees help to understand them. So in other words, these devotees, they read them in Chinese, and many of them don't understand a single thing about like the Bhagavad Gita, but they just have so much simplicity and faith in the mantra and in Bhagavad Gita. Some of them share their stories like in our Sangha. I felt so inspired and amazed. Some of them say like they have anxiety and worry and stress, just like many of us. And they will simply hold the Bhagavad Gita to their heart. And simply through that, they felt solace. Like they said it with so much faith and with so much authenticity. So I felt this, in one sense, like really no material like impediment or political restrictions to someone's faith. And yeah, I wanted to share that because I was amazed and really deeply inspired and reminded again how powerful the holy names and their books are. Yeah, and really nice to see from this perspective people who really don't understand the Gita or have a lot of like political, in one sense, it's less easy to learn about any religion in China, but on the other end, it really shows no matter where we are at, there's always like temporarily material impediments, but it either breaks us or builds us further to our spiritual and material life. And it depends on how we see it and how we really live it. So yeah, I wanted to share that. Yeah.
Krishna's available. How wonderful is Krishna?
Yeah.
Thank you, Domi. It all boils down to what Adipusha Prabhu always says, that Krishna is available and wonderful. Thank you. Chinese Prashanam Ki Jai. Chinese devotees Ki Jai. Okay. Shall we call it a day in Lord
Thank you. Thank
David?
you so much, Domi. I just wanted to thank you so much. Thank you, Aunt Bihari, for asking her to chant, because then we got to hear her share. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm very happy that we got to hear from you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
With asking Domi to recite the mantra. Yadunath Prabhu.
Yeah, can you hear me? I don't know if you guys could hear.
Yeah.
I love your point, Naomi, that the challenges can either break us or they can grow us. They can build us. And you can see that you're not the only one challenged. Like, look at the history of all the great devotees. They went through so many challenges. They went through so much time of purification. And are they willing to go through that purification, so that when we're going through hell, don't stop in the middle, keep going, because if we stop, we get stuck in a very hellish place, really brutal place. And we look at the lives of the Pandavas, we think they were with Krishna, they had Krishna, and they didn't just have Krishna, but they were also very exalted personalities. Arjuna being an eternal consort, friend of Krishna. So these are great personalities. They went through so much challenge. It was on the brink of breaking them. Their sons were killed. The Kurus tried to kill them. So we consider we are also being tested. Krishna is doing the same because he wants us back. He wants us back actually more than we want to come back. He wants us with him. And here in consciousness, can we be actually starting to awake our relationship with him, talk to him, be with him, share with him. And one thing Shamasundar Prabhu, a Prabhupada disciple, said that, and I'm also trying to apply this in my life, but he said, one thing that we had when Srila Prabhupada was here is that devotees were taking such risks for Krishna because they had Srila Prabhupada's example of that, where he just every day was like this spiritual, this amazing journey, this amazing, what can we do for Krishna that's out of the box? So even in China, what can we do? We can get out of the box, get out of our comfort zone, and try to please Krishna.
Thank you, Maternath Prabhu. On this high note, we're wrapping it up happily. This is a Sunday. Go to the temple, dance, chant for Krishna, offer a prayer for the devotees, and come again tomorrow. Hare Krishna. Thank you.